The rain had not stopped for 3 whole days in the city, and Maya was already drowning, not in the water outside. In the mess her life had become, the man sitting alone in the corner booth did not belong in a place like the Rusty Fork Diner. Not with that suit, not with that watch, not with those cold, sharp eyes that never stopped moving. He had been sitting there for over an hour. His black coffee had gone completely cold, but he never touched his phone, never picked up a menu, never looked away from her. Every time Maya refilled a cup or cleared a table, she could feel his eyes following her. Like she was a puzzle he was quietly solving. Like she was a problem he had already figured out. When he finally stood up and walked out into the rain, Maya let out a long, slow breath. She grabbed a tray and headed over to clean his table. That is when she found the napkin. It was folded into a perfect little triangle, sitting right under the plate. When she picked it up, her fingers felt something damp, dark red, still wet. Blood. She unfolded it slowly. The handwriting inside was elegant, neat, every single letter formed with terrifying precision. It said just 2 sentences. 10 o'clock. You have 30 seconds to live. Maya's heart stopped completely. She looked up at the clock on the wall. 9:50. 9:40. 7 seconds. 13 seconds left. The front door swung open. A tall man stepped in from the rain wearing a long, soaking coat. His hand was already reaching inside his jacket. Maya saw the dull gray glint of metal. She saw his flat, cold eyes lock directly onto her face. She saw the silencer slide out from under his coat. Her body moved before her brain could catch up. She dropped the tray. Dishes crashed onto the floor. She ran not toward the front door. He was right there. Not toward the kitchen. That was a dead end. She ran toward the back room, where her little brother Danny was asleep on the small cot she had set up for him that night. Behind her she heard shouting, she heard screaming, she heard the soft, muffled sound of gunfire, and then the heavy, wet sound of a body hitting the floor. Maya hit the back room door with her shoulder and burst through. Danny was already awake, eyes wide, scrambling off the cot in terror. She grabbed his hand and they sprinted toward the emergency exit at the back. She slammed both hands into the push bar. The door did not move. Maya, honey. That voice stopped her cold. She turned slowly. Benny, the diner owner, the man who had hired her 4 years ago, the man who always gave her the best shifts, the man who had let her bring Danny when she had no other babysitter, was standing in the doorway. He was holding a shotgun. His face looked sorry, genuinely, painfully sorry. They offered me $50,000, he said, and his voice cracked a little. I got grandkids, Maya. I got medical bills. You understand. Maya understood. She understood that she had been a fool to trust anyone in this city. She understood that the man in the expensive suit had not left her to die. He had warned her. 30 seconds. Just enough time to realize she was already dead. She pulled Danny behind her and put her body between him and the gun, and she waited. The blast came, but not from Benny's direction. The back door exploded inward. Metal screamed off the hinges. Rain and smoke poured in, and through it all, moving like a shadow made solid, came the man from the corner booth. His hand held a matte black pistol. Before Benny could swing the shotgun around, the man fired twice. Benny went down screaming, both kneecaps. The man in the suit did not even glance at him. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, grabbed Maya's arm with a grip like iron, and pulled her and Danny out through the destroyed door into the alley behind the diner. A black car was already idling there, low and sleek and dark as a shadow. The back door was already open and waiting. Get in, he said. Maya did not move. Behind them, the shooter from inside was coming. She could hear the footsteps. Beside her, Danny was shaking, silent tears running down his little face. Now, the man said, and there was absolutely no room for argument in that word. Maya grabbed Danny and threw herself into the car. The man slid in right behind them. The door slammed. The car was already moving before the locks even clicked shut. Maya's lungs burned. Her hands would not stop shaking. She turned to look at the man who had left 0 tip and a warning written in blood. The man who had just shot through a door to keep her breathing, and she demanded, "Who the hell are you?" He did not look at her. He was checking his gun, ejecting the magazine, counting rounds with the calm, mechanical focus of someone who had done it 10,000 times before. "My name is Dante," he said quietly. He finally looked at her. His eyes were dark, deep, absolutely certain of something she did not understand yet. "And you, Maya, have been carrying something that belongs to me for the last 19 years. He glanced at her throat. "That locket around your neck, the one your father gave you before he died." His voice dropped lower. "Inside it is the key to $1 billion, and every criminal organization in 3 countries wants you dead to get it." Maya's hand flew to her throat. The cheap silver locket, the one she had worn every single day since she was 8 years old. The one her father had clasped around her neck the night before the accident, pressing both her hands over it, making her promise to never, ever take it off. The car accelerated hard into the dark, rain-soaked night, and Maya realized with a cold and crystal clear certainty that her life, the small, struggling, exhausted life she had built from the rubble of everything she had lost, was completely over. The only question now was what would rise from the ashes. The leather seat felt soft beneath her torn uniform. Danny pressed close against her side, still shaking, still completely silent. Dante was on the phone, his voice low and commanding. Maya closed her eyes and tried to breathe. She tried to think. She tried to make sense of a world that had cracked open and swallowed her whole. The car smelled like leather and gunpowder, and underneath all of that, something warm. Sandalwood, maybe. Clean and dark, Maya pressed her hands flat against her thighs and tried to stop them from shaking. Benny had tried to kill her. The one place in the whole city she had thought was safe had been a trap. The man she had made coffee for every single morning, the man who remembered her order before she even said it, had pointed a loaded shotgun at her face. Dante ended his call and turned to look at her. In the dim light inside the car, his face was all sharp angles and deep shadows. Handsome in the way a blade was handsome. Dangerous in the way fire was dangerous when you got too close. "The locket?" he said, not a question, a command. Maya's fingers closed around the pendant at her throat. "No, Maya." His voice wrapped around her name like a warning dressed in silk. "I just saved your life. The least you can do is show me what 19 years of trouble has been worth. Protection." She almost laughed. It came out broken and a little bitter. "You call this protection? A man just tried to murder me in the middle of a diner. My boss, someone I trusted, sold me out for $50,000, and you think you have been protecting me?" Dante's jaw tightened. "You're alive, aren't you?" The question hung between them, sharp as the edge of a knife. Maya wanted to scream. She wanted answers. She wanted to grab him by the collar and shake sense out of him until the world made something close to normal again. But Danny was pressed against her side, his small body trembling, and she could not fall apart, not yet. "Where are you taking us?" she demanded. "Somewhere safe. That is not an answer. It is the only one you are getting right now." Dante's eyes held hers, dark and bottomless. "Your father made a deal with very dangerous people, Maya. He took something that did not belong to him, something worth more than your life, more than mine, more than every single person in this city combined, and before he died, he hid it." Maya's chest went tight. "My father died in a car accident. Your father was executed." The words fell like stones dropped into still water. They made it look like an accident because they still believed he would tell them where the key was. But he did not break, even when they killed your mother in front of him. Even when they threatened to come for you next, he died protecting that secret. The inside of the car suddenly felt too small. The air felt too thin. Maya could not breathe, her mother's so-called heart attack, 6 months after her father was gone. Maya had believed it was grief. She had believed it because she was young and scared, and the truth was too monstrous to fit inside her head. Her mother had not died of a broken heart. She had been murdered. Why didn't they kill me? Maya's voice came out barely above a whisper. "If they knew about me, why leave me alive? Because they did not know where you were." Dante's gaze dropped to the locket. "Your father was very careful. He had hidden you so deeply that by the time anyone discovered you existed, You had already disappeared into the system under a completely different last name. Maya's mind was spinning. Collins is not my real name, she said slowly, putting it together. No, your birth name was Maya Park. You were placed with the Collins family when you were 9. They were good people. They kept you hidden. They kept you safe. Maya felt something cold move through her chest, and when they died in that house fire 3 years ago, that was not an accident either. The words were quiet. Almost gentle. By then, the people hunting you had tracked the adoption records. The Collins family refused to give you up, so they burned. Maya pressed her face into Danny's hair, breathing in the smell of cheap drugstore sham, poo she bought in big bottles because it was affordable, grounding herself in the one real thing she still had. This boy, this little brother she had raised, the last piece of family she had left, except he was not her brother. That truth sat between her and Dante, heavy as a loaded gun, unspoken but undeniable. The car turned down a narrow street and then descended into an underground garage that swallowed them whole. Rows of vehicles gleamed under fluorescent lights like weapons on display. Dante stepped out in one smooth motion and offered Maya his hand. She looked at it, long fingers, a single platinum ring on his right hand. Hands that had just shattered 2 kneecaps without flinching, and yet the gesture felt almost careful. She did not take it. She climbed out on her own, pulling Danny with her. The corner of Dante's mouth moved. Stubborn, he said, alive. She shot back, throwing his own word at him like a dart. Something moved behind his eyes. Respect, maybe, or amusement. The look of a wolf who has just noticed the kitten has claws. The elevator ride was completely silent. Maya watched the numbers climbing, 10, 20, 30, 40. The penthouse, of course. Men like Dante did not live at ground level. They lived above everything and everyone, looking down at the world they controlled. The doors opened onto a space that stole her breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the whole city, spread out below them, like a glittering kingdom. White marble floors, black leather furniture, art on the walls that Maya recognized from her 1 semester of art history, before she had dropped out and taken the diner job to survive. Guest room is down that hall, Dante said, nodding toward the left. Clothes in the closet, food in the kitchen. You and Danny will stay here until I have dealt with the immediate threats. Dealt with, Maya repeated slowly. You mean killed. I mean neutralized. He shrugged off his jacket, and Maya saw the shoulder holster underneath. The gun nestled against his ribs like something sleeping. Benny was a loose end. The man in the diner was a hired contractor. Neither of them were the real problem. Then what is? Dante crossed to the bar and poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a crystal glass. He did not offer her any. The real problem is that every criminal organization from here to the other side of the world knows that somewhere in this city there is a girl wearing a locket containing the access codes. 15 offshore accounts, $2 billion in laundered money, money that was supposed to fund the next decade of operations, money that your father stole and hid so perfectly that even torture could not pull the location out of him. He took a slow sip and watched her over the rim of the glass. The syndicate wants it back. Another faction wants to steal it. A third group wants to use it as leverage, and every freelance killer in the city wants the bounty on your head. He set the glass down. $3 million, Maya, alive or dead. Though alive is strongly preferred. They want the locket intact. Maya's hand went to her throat. Her fingers closed around the small silver pendant. She had worn it every single day for 19 years. Through foster care, through adoption, through loss and poverty and exhaustion and loneliness, through every moment of her small, struggling life. All that time, she had been carrying a death sentence around her neck. Why do you care? She asked. If everyone wants this money, what makes you different? Dante set the glass down with a quiet click. Because the money is mine. He turned to face her fully. Your father did not just steal from the syndicate. He worked for my father, managed accounts, kept records. The man my father trusted above everyone else. And when my father was dying, when everything was falling apart, your father took the emergency funds and vanished. His voice stayed cold and controlled. But underneath it, Maya could hear something older. a wound that had never quite healed. That money was supposed to protect the legitimate businesses, supposed to keep my mother and my sisters safe. He took it all and left us exposed. My uncle used that exposure to stage a takeover. He killed my father. He tried to kill me. It has taken me 7 years to rebuild what was lost, 7 years, and now, finally, I have found the key to what was stolen. He crossed the room toward her, moving with that same quiet, predatory grace that made Maya's pulse jump even when she did not want it to. He stopped close enough that she could feel the warmth coming off his body, close enough that she could smell gunpowder and sandalwood and rain. So yes, Maya, I care. I care because that locket represents everything I lost, everyone I failed to protect, and I will have it back. Maya lifted her chin. She refused to be intimidated, even though her heart was hammering hard enough to bruise. And what happens to me when you take it? That depends. On what? On whether you are smart enough to survive what comes next. His hand rose slowly, slowly enough that she could have stepped back, could have moved away, but Maya stood completely still as his fingers brushed the side of her neck, tracing the chain of the locket with a touch so light it felt like a whisper against her skin. The 0 tip was not an insult, Maya. It was a code, Benny's safe combination. I needed you to carry something to him without knowing what you were carrying. A virus on a hidden drive. Once it made contact with his security system, I had access to everything. His records, his contacts. 3 years of proof that he had been selling information on safe house locations. Maya felt the air leave her lungs. You used me. I saved you. His thumb pressed lightly against her pulse point, feeling the rapid beat of her heart. Benny was always going to sell you out. The bounty was too high and he was too desperate. But I made sure I was there when it happened. I made sure you would live long enough to matter. The words should have made her furious, but all Maya could focus on was the warmth of his touch, the way his eyes had darkened as he watched her face, the strange, dangerous pull between them like a live wire stretched tight. I am not your tool, she said, her voice rough. No. Dante's mouth curved into something that was not quite a smile. You are my salvation or my destruction. I have not decided which yet. He released her and stepped back. And Maya felt the absence of his touch like something physical, a coolness where warmth had been. She hated that she noticed. Danny tugged on her sleeve. His wide dark eyes moved back and forth between Maya and Dante, reading the tension in the air with the quiet, uncanny instinct of a child who had survived by staying invisible and paying very close attention to everything around him. Guest room, Dante said again, his voice returning to that clipped commanding tone. Sleep, eat. Tomorrow we figure out how to keep you alive long enough to open that locket without triggering the fail. Safe, fail, safe. Maya's stomach dropped. Your father was paranoid and brilliant. The locket has a biometric lock. Your fingerprint opens it. Anyone else triggers a thermite charge that melts the drive and everything within a cinch radius. He picked up his glass again, including fingers, including faces. He looked at her evenly. So you see, Maya, you are not just valuable. You are irreplaceable, which makes you the most dangerous thing I have ever brought into my home. Maya stood there holding Danny's hand, staring at the man who had killed to save her and used her as a chess piece, and looked at her like she was either a miracle or a curse he had not yet figured out. Get some rest, Dante said, his tone dismissing her as easily as flipping a switch. Tomorrow, I will show you exactly what kind of world your father left you in, and you will decide whether you are strong enough to survive it. Maya turned and walked down the hall. Danny pressed close against her side. Her mind was spinning with revelations and lies, and the phantom warmth of Dante's touch against her throat. The guest room was bigger than their entire apartment back home. Soft gray walls, clean lines, a bed that looked like paradise after years of sleeping on a second-hand futon. But when she lay down, Danny curled against her the way he always had since he was small enough to fit in the crook of her arm. Maya did not sleep. She stared at the ceiling and thought about her father, the man she had loved and the man she had never actually known. The gift he had given her that was really a curse wrapped in cheap silver. And she thought about Dante, the dragon who had pulled her out of the fire. She wondered if being saved by a monster was really any different from being killed by one. The only difference, she thought, as exhaustion finally dragged her under, was that monsters did not let you go once they had claimed you. And Dante had already marked her as his. Maya woke up to silence and the smell of fresh coffee. For one disoriented moment, she thought she was back in the studio apartment. She thought the alarm was about to go off. Thought she needed to get Danny ready for school and get herself to work before the morning rush hit. Then she opened her eyes and saw the floor, the ceiling windows, the impossible view of the entire city spread out below her like a conquered empire. And she remembered that her old life was gone. Danny was already awake. He was sitting cross-legged on the thick carpet with a sketchbook in his lap and colored pencils arranged in careful rows beside him. He was drawing something with the same fierce, total concentration he brought to everything he loved. Danny could not speak. He had not spoken a single word since the night their parents died. The doctors called it trauma. His art was the only language he had. Maya sat up slowly. Every muscle in her body ached, the crash of adrenaline leaving behind bruises only the inside of you could feel. She found clothes in the closet at exactly where Dante had said they would be. Designer names she recognized from magazine covers she had flipped through in waiting rooms. Every size exactly right, which meant someone had been watching her long enough to know her measurements. She chose plain black jeans and a simple white shirt, refusing the dresses and delicate fabrics that felt like costumes for a life that was not hers. When she came out of the bedroom, Danny trailing behind with his sketchbook pressed to his chest, she found Dante at the dining table. He had changed too. Gone was the blood-spattered suit from the night before. Now he wore black slacks and a black shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows, showing forearms laced with lean muscle and ink. Parts of a large tattoo she had only glimpsed before. A great coiling creature wrapping around his arms like something alive and dangerous. He was reading something on a tablet, coffee steaming at his elbow, looking so completely ordinary that Meyer almost laughed. Almost because there was nothing ordinary about the gun sitting on the table within easy reach. Nothing ordinary about the cold, calculating weight of his gaze when he looked up at her. "Coffee's fresh," he said. "Kitchen is stocked. Take what you want." Maya moved past him into the kitchen, very aware of his eyes tracking her every movement. She poured coffee into a mug that felt too fragile in her hands, and added sugar, because she needed the sweetness right now badly. When she came back to the dining room, Danny had already wandered over to Dante and was holding up his sketchbook to show him the drawing. It was the diner, the rusty fork, down to the cracked vinyl on the booth seats, and the flickering neon in the window. But in Danny's version, the whole building was on fire, flames swallowing the roof and walls, and two small figures stood in the foreground, watching it all burn. Dante studied the drawing with the same sharp intensity he brought to everything. "You are talented," he said to Danny. Not talking down to him, not making it cute or small, just stating a fact, one professional acknowledging another. Danny's whole face lit up the way it always did when someone truly looked at his work. He flipped to a fresh page and started drawing again immediately, this time sketching Dante's face in quick, confident strokes. "He likes you," Maya said, sitting down across the table. "That is unfortunate for both of us." "Why unfortunate?" "Because liking me seems to be dangerous." Dante's mouth curved slightly. "Liking me is honestly the least dangerous thing about your situation right now, Maya." He slid the tablet across the table toward her. Maya looked down at the screen and felt her stomach drop straight through the floor. It was a news article. That morning's paper, the headline was stark and brutal. "Late night diner shooting leaves 3 dead." Below it, crime scene photos, the rusty fork wrapped in yellow police tape, a body being wheeled out under a white sheet. 3 dead, Maya whispered, "But you only shot Benny. The contractor killed a customer who tried to play hero. Then he killed the cook when the man came out of the kitchen with a knife." Eddie and Marcus. Eddie with his construction worker hands, always complaining about his supervisor, always on his 3rd cup of coffee. Marcus, who always saved Maya the best slice of pie without her even having to ask. Both gone. Both dead because they were in the wrong place. Because of the thing hanging around her neck. The police will be looking for me, she said. The police will be looking for a waitress named Maya Collins, who disappeared during the shooting. But Maya Collins does not exist anymore. Dante pulled up another document on the tablet. A death certificate with her name on it, dated 4 years ago. As far as the world is concerned, you died in the same house fire that killed your adoptive parents. The Maya Collins who worked at the Rusty Fork was using stolen identity documents. The police will chase that ghost for a while, but eventually the trail goes cold. You erased me. The words came out hollow. I saved you, he said matter-of-factly, like there was no difference at all between salvation and obliteration. The girl you were is dead, Maya. The question now is who you are going to become. She wanted to throw the coffee in his face, wanted to scream that he did not get to decide who she was, that she was not his project or his possession or his very convenient tool with good timing. But Danny was watching them both with wide, worried eyes, and Maya had learned a long time ago that surviving meant swallowing your rage and choosing your battles. You said there was a fail-safe, she said instead. Show me. Dante stood and walked to a door in the wall that Maya had not even noticed. It was hidden perfectly in the paneling. He pressed his palm to a small scanner, and it clicked open. Beyond it was a room that looked like something between a private library and a military bunker. Floor, the ceiling screens displaying security feeds from what looked like dozens of locations. A workstation loaded with more computer equipment than Maya had seen outside of a movie. A wall safe that probably held enough weapons to start a small war. He gestured her inside. Maya followed, Danny close behind, both of them stepping into the place where the real Dante lived. The penthouse was the mask. This was the face underneath. Dante pulled out the chair at the workstation and indicated she should sit. When she did, he leaned over her, close enough that she felt the warmth of his body, smelled that sandalwood scent again. His hand came down on the desk beside hers, caging her in without quite touching her. Maya's pulse jumped. The locket, he said, his voice low. Take it off. I said anyone else triggering it would be a problem. I did not say you could not open it yourself. His breath was warm against her ear. Open it, Maya. Let's see what your father thought was worth dying for. Her hands trembled as she reached for the clasp at the back of her neck. The locket had been around her throat for so long it felt like part of her own body. Removing it felt like cutting something loose from her soul. But she unhooked the chain and held the pendant in her open palm. It was cheap silver, tarnished and scratched up. The kind of jewelry you found in a drugstore for a few dollars. Nothing special on the outside, except. When Maya looked closer, really looked, she saw the seam was not quite right. The edges did not line up the way they should. It had been carefully, expertly modified to hide something more than just a photograph. Your thumb, Dante instructed. Press it to the center. Maya pressed for a moment. Absolutely nothing happened. Then she felt a tiny sharp prick. The biometric scanner reading her fingerprint, tasting her blood. The locket grew warm in her hand. Almost too hot to hold. She nearly dropped it, but Dante's hand came over hers and held the pendant steady, his fingers threading through hers without letting go. The locket clicked open. Inside, where a photograph should have been, there was a tiny memory card embedded in a custom housing. Smaller than her fingernail, unremarkable to look at, worth more than her entire life, $2 billion, Dante murmured, compressed into something you could swallow if you had to. He carefully took the locket from her hand and inserted the card into a reader on his computer. Lines of code scrolled across the screen. Account numbers, location codes, 15 offshore banks across 7 different countries. Every cent mapped and accounted for. Your father was meticulous, Dante said, his voice tight with something Maya could not quite name. Relief, fury, both at the same time. He built in redundancies, multiple layers of protection. It is going to take days to access everything without triggering alerts. Days you do not have? Maya guessed no, the moment that locket opened. It sent a signal to a monitoring system your father built. He wanted whoever found it to know they were being watched. Dante turned to face her, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch, which means every enemy I have now knows exactly where to find you. This penthouse is about to become a war zone. He reached past her and pulled a handgun from a drawer. Checked the magazine with quick, practiced efficiency. I have maybe 2 hours before the first wave arrives, 4 hours before they coordinate a real assault. Maya's mind raced. Then we leave, we run. You said you have resources. Running is what prey does. Dante's voice was flat and final. I am not prey, Maya. I am the thing that hunts, and I am done letting my uncle believe otherwise. He moved to the wall safe, entered a code, and began pulling weapons out with the calm ease of someone unpacking groceries. A rifle, 2 more handguns, ammunition he loaded with mechanical precision. He was arming for a full war. Right in front of her, and Maya realized with a sick, cold clarity that he had been expecting this. Planning for it, maybe even looking forward to it. You knew, she said. You knew opening the locket would bring them here. Of course I knew. Dante's smile was sharp as broken glass. Why do you think I brought you here instead of hiding you somewhere safe? You are not just the key, Maya. You are the bait, the trap, the thing that will make all of my enemies show their faces once so I can put bullets in every single one of them. The betrayal hit harder than it should have. Maya had known she was being used. She had known it from the very beginning. But somewhere in that dark car ride the night before, when Dante had pulled her from the wreckage of her old life, she had let herself believe, just for a moment, that he might actually care about keeping her alive for reasons beyond his own plan. You are using me, she said flatly. Yes. His eyes met hers and did not flinch. And if they kill me getting to you, they won't. I did not spend 7 years tracking your father's secrets just to let someone put a bullet in you before I have done what I came to do. He stepped closer. You are mine, Maya. Mine to protect, mine to use, mine to keep alive, and I will do all 3. The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified her. It did not. What Maya felt instead was something she had not felt in years. The strange, dark awareness of being truly seen. Not as the struggling waitress everyone either pitied or ignored. Not as the foster kid no one had wanted. But as something valuable, something worth keeping, something real, even if the reasons behind it were terrible. I do not tip what is already mine, she said slowly, repeating his words from the night before. Is that what I am? Your property? Dante crossed the space between them in 2 steps. He did not touch her, but he stood close enough that Maya had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Close enough to see the war happening just beneath his perfectly controlled expression. My father used to say that ownership and protection were the same thing. He said quietly, You cannot keep what you do not claim. You cannot defend what is not yours. His hand rose, and Maya held completely still as his fingers brushed the hollow of her throat where the locket had rested. The touch was searingly gentle. So yes, Maya, as of last night, when I put my body between you and a bullet, when I killed to keep you breathing, you became mine, my responsibility, my asset, my problem, your weakness. Maya said, and watched something flicker in the depths of his eyes. His thumb traced her collarbone, the touch making her shiver even in the warmth of the room. Weakness is just another word for caring what happens next, and I stopped caring about anything except survival a very long time ago. He dropped his hand. Until you, the confession hung raw and unwanted in the air between them. Maya did not know what to do with it. Did not know how to process the fact that this man, this killer, this cold and calculating monster, had just admitted that she had become something more than a transaction. Before she could say anything at all, an alarm screamed through the entire penthouse. Red lights flashed on every screen in the room at once. Dante was already moving. He grabbed the rifle and shoved a handgun into Maya's hands. Safety's off, he said. Point and shoot. Can you do that? Maya stared at the weapon in her hands, felt its weight, its terrible promise. I have never, then learned fast. He pulled her to her feet and pushed her toward Danny, who had stopped drawing and was watching everything with wide, frightened eyes. Take him to the panic room, 3rd door on the left down the hall. Code is your birthday. Stay there until I come for you. And if you don't come... Dante's smile was sharp and deadly and completely calm. Then use that gun. Shoot anyone who tries to open the door, and when you run out of bullets, use the knife in the bottom drawer. Aim for the eyes or the throat. Do not hesitate. Do not think. Just survive. He turned to go. Maya caught his arm. He looked back at her, and Maya saw something in his face that had not been there before. Real worry. Don't die, she said. I need you to not die. Dante's hand came up and cupped her face with a gentleness that had absolutely no business belonging to a man like him. I do not plan to. I have too much unfinished business with you. Then he was gone, moving through the penthouse like a shadow given purpose. And Maya was alone with Danny and a gun, and the terrible realization that she had just begged a monster to stay alive. Not for her safety, for him. The panic room was smaller than she expected, 10 by 10 feet of reinforced steel and concrete, lined with emergency supplies and a row of monitors showing every angle of the penthouse. Maya settled Danny on the small cot in the corner, gave him his sketchbook and pencils, and told herself not to watch the screens. She watched every second of it. She saw Dante move through the penthouse with lethal efficiency. The first attacker came through the window in a shower of glass. Dante had 2 rounds in him before the man's feet hit the floor. The second came through the front door on a breaching charge that blew the hinges clean off. Dante dropped him with a single shot, then rolled behind the kitchen island as return fire chewed the countertops apart. 6 attackers, maybe 7, all in tactical gear, all moving like trained soldiers, coordinating through hand signals, cutting off angles. Dante moved like something entirely different, a dancer, a storm, every motion purposeful, every shot precise. He was not just fighting, he was performing, showing every one of his enemies exactly who they had been foolish enough to come after. But even the strongest fighter could be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Maya watched one attacker slip around through the library, watched him raise his weapon, line up his shot on Dante's exposed back. Her breath locked in her throat. The gun in her hands felt impossibly heavy. Dante spun, but too slow. Then the attacker's head snapped back. He dropped. Another figure stepped out of the shadows, one of Dante's own men. The driver from the night before, the one with the scar bisecting his eyebrow. He was bleeding from a shoulder wound, but his gun was rock steady. The fight became controlled chaos after that. More of Dante's people appeared from positions Maya had not even known existed. The attackers were good, but they were fighting on Dante's ground, by Dante's rules. One by one, they fell. And through all of it, Maya could not look away, could not stop watching the way Dante moved. The grace and violence braided together into something that was genuinely terrifying and somehow impossibly breathtaking. When the last attacker dropped, Dante stood in the wreckage of his own penthouse, chest heaving, face spattered with blood that was not his. He looked directly at one of the cameras, and Maya felt the full weight of his gaze even through the monitor. "It is over," she whispered to Danny. "We are safe." But when Dante came to them, when he typed in the code and pulled open the panic room door, Maya knew with absolute certainty that nothing was over. This was just the beginning. He looked like something out of a dark story standing in that doorway, backlit by the emergency lights, covered in evidence of everything that had just happened. But when his eyes found Maya and Danny, both unharmed, something in his expression shifted. "Just for a moment, just enough, you are hurt," Maya said, because she had watched him take a graze across his ribs during the fight. "I have had worse." But he was pressing his hand against his side, and when Maya stepped closer, she saw blood seeping slowly between his fingers. "Let me see." "Maya, sit down, let me see." She did not know where that voice came from, that quiet, absolute authority. But Dante sat on the cot without another word, and Maya knelt in front of him, pushing his blood-soaked shirt up to see the wound beneath. It was not deep, but it was bleeding steadily. She found the first aid kit on the wall. Of course, there was one. She pulled out gauze and antiseptic. Her hands were shaking, but her voice came out steady. "This is going to hurt. Everything hurts," Dante said. Do it. Maya cleaned the wound. She tried not to think about how close they were, his breath coming a little faster as she worked. The way the muscles of his stomach tensed under her hands, not from pain, but from something else entirely. The tattoo that covered his chest was even more intricate up close. A great serpent rendered in deep black ink, coiling around his torso, one claw extended toward his heart. Maya traced the lines without thinking, just feeling the warmth of his skin, the strong and steady beat of his pulse. You should be afraid of me, Maya, Dante said quietly. His hand came up and covered hers, going still. After what you just watched, after what I did, you should be running. Maya met his eyes. I am not running. Why not? Because I was afraid for you. The words came out before she could stop them. I watched those men try to kill you, and I was terrified, not of you, for you, and that is probably the most foolish thing I have ever admitted out loud. Dante's grip on her hand tightened. I have killed people, Maya, more than you saw tonight, more than I can count. I am not a good man. I am not even a man who is trying to be good. I know. Maya pressed her palm flat against his chest, felt his heartbeat under her fingers, strong, steady, real. But you are the man who saved me, the man who protected Danny, the man who just fought off an army to keep us breathing. So maybe you are not good, Dante, but you are mine. She did not know where those words came from, did not know what made her claim him the way he had claimed her. But the moment they left her lips, she felt the truth of them settle somewhere deep inside her chest. She had spent her whole life being invisible, being used, being left behind, and here was a man who actually saw her, who valued her, who would burn the world down before he let anyone take her. That was worth more than goodness. Dante's free hand came up and cupped her face. His thumb brushed her cheek with a tenderness that had no business existing in a man like him. You have no idea what you are saying yes to. Then show me, Maya said. Show me what I am choosing. Show me who you really are. For a long moment he just looked at her. And Maya watched the war inside his eyes, calculation fighting against something deeper, something raw and entirely unguarded. Then he was pulling her up, pulling her close, until she was standing between his knees, their faces level, their breath the same air. I am the man who will burn this city to ash to keep you safe, he said, his voice low and fierce and completely certain. I am the man who will make you watch while I destroy everyone who has ever threatened you. I am the man who will lock you in a cage of gold and call it love, because I do not know any other way to care for something without owning it completely. Then own me, Maya whispered, because I would rather belong to a monster who keeps me alive than be free and already dead. Dante made a sound low in his throat, something between a growl and a groan that she felt more than heard. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head back, exposing the line of her throat. For one heartbeat Maya thought he might mark her there, the way animals mark their territory. Instead, he pressed his forehead against hers and just breathed. You are going to ruin me. Good, Maya said. We can be ruined together. She felt his smile against her skin, felt the shift in the air, the acknowledgement of a line crossed that could never be uncrossed. Then his mouth was on hers, and Maya stopped thinking entirely. The kiss was nothing gentle. It was claim and conquest, demand and surrender. He kissed like he fought, with precision and passion and absolute certainty that he would win. His hand in her hair held her exactly where he wanted her. His arm banded around her waist and pulled her flush against him until she could feel every hard edge of his body. She had been kissed before. Brief, forgettable things with boys who had not known what they were doing. This was fire. This was Dante showing her exactly what it meant to belong to a man like him. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Maya's lips felt bruised. Her whole body felt electric. The wound. She managed. I need to finish bandaging it. Forget the wound. His voice was rough, barely controlled. He stopped himself, jaw tight, eyes dark. No, not here, not with Danny watching, not in a panic room with bodies on the floor outside. He looked at her with devastating intensity. When I have you, Maya, it will be because I can take my time, because I can show you exactly what it means to be mine. Do you understand? Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. Good. He released her with visible effort, his hands lingering for just a moment before falling away. Finish the bandaging, then we leave. This place is compromised. We disappear until I can regroup. Maya's hands were still shaking slightly as she wrapped gauze around his ribs and secured it with tape. Her mind was spinning with everything that kiss had promised, with the dark certainty in Dante's voice. She had just agreed to belong to a killer, a man who saw violence as the only honest language and possession, as the highest form of protection. And the most terrifying part was that she did not regret a single second of it. There is a safe house, Dante said as he stood and pulled her up with him. Hidden, no one outside my most trusted people knows it exists. We go there while I figure out our next move. He glanced at Danny, who had been drawing quietly through everything, processing the chaos in the only way he knew how. He comes with us, obviously, Maya said. I protect what is mine, Maya. Dante's eyes were steady. That includes him. They walked out through what remained of the penthouse, bodies where they had fallen. Furniture overturned, windows shattered, the beautiful white marble floors stained dark in places. Dante's men were already working. Efficient and grim, the scarred driver nodded at Dante. Perimeter secured, no immediate threats remaining. Clean this up, wipe it by morning. Yes, sir. Dante led Maya and Danny to a second elevator she had not noticed before. This one went down instead of up, descending into the building's maintenance tunnels and emerging in a second underground garage. Different vehicles, all of them dark and anonymous. He chose a black car with blacked-out windows, opened the back door for Maya and Danny, waited until they were settled, then got behind the wheel himself. As they pulled out into the Chicago night, Maya looked back at the building receding behind them. Up there somewhere, men were erasing the evidence of a war, and Maya realized she did not care. She had spent her whole life being invisible, trying to survive without drawing anyone's attention, but invisibility was just a slower way of dying. Dante had made her visible, had made her matter, had looked at her in the dark and said mine like it meant everything. If the price of mattering was blood and danger, and belonging to a man like him, then Maya would pay it without hesitation. She caught his eyes in the rearview mirror. He was already watching her. No going back, he said. I know. You will see things, do things, become things you never imagined. I know. And you are still choosing this, choosing me. Maya held his gaze in the mirror without blinking. I am. Dante's smile in the mirror was sharp and slow and deeply satisfied. Then welcome, Maya. Try not to burn. The safe house in the old neighborhood was exactly what Maya would have expected from Dante. Hidden in plain sight. A busy restaurant at street level, staff who looked like ordinary workers but moved with the quiet watchfulness of people trained to notice everything. Below the kitchen, a staircase that should not exist, leading down to a space that was part bunker and part very expensive apartment. Dante settled Danny in a bedroom, made sure the boy had everything he needed, spoke to him directly and without talking down, and then went to find Maya. She was standing at the window, one-way glass. She could see the street above without anyone being able to see her. Story of her life, she thought. You should rest. Dante said from behind her. I should demand answers. Maya turned, starting with why someone was specifically targeting Danny at the penthouse. Dante went very still. What? During the fight, I watched the monitors. Most of the attackers were going for you, but 2 of them split off. They went straight for the panic room. They were not trying to breach it for me. They were setting charges to blow it open. They wanted Danny specifically. Her voice was shaking slightly now. Why? Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very carefully controlled. How old is Danny? 8. He just turned 8 last month. And you have been raising him since your parents died, 4 years ago. Yes. Maya's chest tightened with the slow, horrible dawning of something she had missed. Something crucial. Your father hid a lot of things, Dante said. He crossed to the bar and poured whiskey with hands that were not quite as steady as usual. His offshore accounts, his criminal connections, his history, but his greatest secret was not the money. He set the glass down without drinking from it. It was the child. The room tilted. No. Your father did not just manage accounts for my father. He spent years in our home. He knew my mother well. My father was always traveling, always building the empire, and your father was kind. Present, everything my father was not. Dante's voice went tight. 8 years ago, my mother became pregnant, not by my father. Maya could not make herself finish the thought. It was a scandal that would have destroyed both families, so they made a deal. Your father would take the child, claim him as his own, hide him until the situation stabilized. In exchange, my father would spare your father's life and give him access to the emergency funds. Enough money to disappear if everything went wrong. Maya breathed the name. Danny is my half-brother. Yes. Dante set the glass down with deliberate care. Which makes him a threat to my uncle, a legitimate heir to the family. If my uncle kills me, and the truth about Danny comes out, the old families will demand Danny take his place. A child they can't control, a puppet. Maya's mind was unraveling. Every truth she had built her life around was shattering, one piece at a time. Her father had not taken Danny out of kindness. He had hidden him. Danny was not her brother. He was Dante's brother. And Maya had been unknowingly raising the heir to a criminal empire for 4 years. The locket, she said slowly. The money. It was not just stolen funds. It was Danny's inheritance, yes. Dante moved closer. Your father was protecting my brother, protecting my family's future. When my uncle had him killed for it, when your mother was taken too, your father made sure Danny would be hidden so completely that no one could find him. He put the boy in your hands, Maya. Made you his guardian without telling you a single word about why. Because he trusted you to keep Danny safe, but I did not know. Maya's voice broke on the words. I did not know what I was protecting him from. Which is exactly why you succeeded. Dante's hands came down on her shoulders, steadying her. If you had known the truth, you would have run differently, made different choices. Your not knowing was Danny's greatest protection. Maya felt tears burning at the back of her eyes. So everything, the adoption, the fire that killed my parents, the diner job, all of it was just moves in a game I did not even know I was playing. Yes. And now, what happens to Danny now? Dante's grip tightened. Now he stops being just your brother and becomes mine too. Now I protect him the way I should have been protecting him all along, if I had known he existed. Now we use the money your father died to hide to destroy my uncle and everyone else who has ever threatened our family. Our family, Maya repeated. The words felt foreign, strange, like words from a language she was only just learning. I am not family, Dante. I am just the girl who got caught in the middle. You are the woman who raised my brother. His voice was fierce. You are the woman who kept him safe when I could not. You are the woman who loved him without knowing he was worth billions, without knowing what blood ran in his veins. That makes you more family than most of the people who actually share my last name. Before Maya could respond, the door to Danny's room opened. The boy came out with a sketchbook and walked directly to Dante. No hesitation, no fear. He held up the page he had been working on. Maya's breath caught. It was a portrait, Danny and Dante side by side. The resemblance, once you knew to look for it, was undeniable. The shape of their eyes, the curve of their mouths, the same watchful stillness in the way they both held themselves. And below the portrait, in careful, deliberate letters, Danny had written one single word, brothers. Dante stared at the drawing for a long moment. When he finally looked up at Danny, his expression was raw in a way Maya had not seen from him before. You knew? Danny nodded. He pointed to Dante, then to himself, then to the drawing, then he smiled. The first real smile Maya had seen from him since the night their parents died. You knew? Dante repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. And you were waiting for me to figure it out. Danny nodded again. Then he did something that broke Maya completely. He reached out and took Dante's hand in both of his small ones, squeezed it tight and held on. Dante dropped to his knees in front of the boy. And for the first time since Maya had met him, the dragon looked entirely, unmistakably human. "I am sorry," he said roughly. "I am sorry I did not find you sooner. Sorry I did not protect you. Sorry you had to hide and be afraid for so long. But I am here now, and I swear on everything I have and everything I am, no one will ever hurt you again." Danny threw his arms around Dante's neck, and Dante held him like he was the most precious thing in the world. His control finally cracking, his careful distance shattering into pieces, Maya watched them and felt her heart break and rebuild itself in the same breath. This was what family actually looked like, not blood, not obligation, not duty assigned by paperwork and tragedy. Choice, love earned through sacrifice and survival, and showing up when it cost you everything. When Dante finally stood, his eyes were bright with tears he refused to let fall. He looked at Maya, and the emotion in his gaze was devastating. "Thank you," he said simply, "for keeping him alive, for keeping him whole, for being everything he needed when I could not be there." Maya crossed to them both and took their hands, Dante's and Danny's, binding the three of them together. "We are family now," she said firmly, "all three of us, so we protect each other." "Agreed," Dante said quietly. His hand tightened around hers. Danny squeezed both their hands at once and nodded with absolute solemnity. Outside, the Chicago night deepened around them. Somewhere in the city, Dante's uncle was regrouping, planning his next move. The war was far from over. But standing there in the hidden safe house, bound together by truth and trauma, and a fierce shared determination to survive, Maya felt something she had not felt in years. "Help!" And as Dante pulled both her and Danny close, as the three of them stood together in the kind of embrace that felt like armor, Maya realized she had finally found what she had been searching for her entire life: a place to belong, people worth fighting for, a reason to stop running and start standing her ground. The dragon had claimed her, but she had claimed him right back. And together, they would burn the world before they let anyone take this fragile, fierce family away. The call came at dawn. Maya woke to find Dante already dressed, standing by the windows with his phone to his ear. His voice was low, controlled, rapid, but she had learned to read the tension in his shoulders, the way his free hand opened and closed slowly at his side. Something was wrong. When he ended the call, he did not turn around. He just stood there, silhouetted against the rising sun, looking like a man preparing for something he had been dreading. "What is it?" Maya asked, sitting up and pulling the silk robe tighter. "My uncle wants to negotiate." Dante's voice was completely empty. "He is offering a ceasefire, a chance to end this without more bloodshed." Maya's stomach dropped. She had seen enough of this world by now to know exactly what a ceasefire offer actually meant. "What does he want?" Dante finally turned. His face was a perfect mask, every emotion locked away behind it. But his eyes were screaming, "You and Danny, in exchange for peace and a guarantee that the remaining accounts get divided fairly. You cannot be considering this. I do not have a choice." He crossed to the bar and poured whiskey, even though the sun had barely risen. His movements mechanical. "Disconnected. He has leverage 3 of my key people, their families. He is threatening to execute them one by one until I comply. Starting with one man's daughter. She is 7 years old." Maya felt sick. This was the world Dante had always lived in. A world where children were used as currency. Where loyalty was bought and kept through the threat of slaughtered innocence. There has to be another way. There is not. He drank. "Did not seem to taste it. This is how it ends. I trade you for their lives. My uncle gets the access codes. The war stops. Everyone walks away. Except me and Danny. Except you and Danny." The betrayal hit like something physical. Maya had known. Somewhere underneath everything she had told herself. She had always known that when it came down to choosing between her and his empire, Dante would choose power. Knowing it and living it were entirely different kinds of pain. "I see," she said. Her voice came out flat. She stood, wrapped her dignity around herself like armor, when, noon neutral ground, the old warehouse district by the river, Dante would not meet her eyes. "You have 3 hours. Say good-bye to Danny. Prepare him. Prepare him for what? For the fact that the man he thinks is his brother is selling him to a monster. Dante's gaze snapped to hers. The fury in his eyes was volcanic. You think I want this. You think this does not destroy me. But I have hundreds of people depending on me, Maya. Families who swore loyalty. Children who only exist because their parents believed I would protect them. What am I supposed to do? Let them all die for 2 people. Yes, Maya said. If those 2 people are your brother and the woman. She stopped herself. The words died in her throat. The woman, Dante said, moving toward her. Predatory, desperate, what? Say it, Maya. Finish the sentence, but she could not. Because admitting it out loud would only make the betrayal cut deeper. The next 3 hours passed in a mechanical silence that felt nothing like peace. Maya dressed in the clothes Dante provided, dark jeans, a black jacket, practical shoes for whatever came next. She packed a small bag for Danny with his sketchbook, his pencils, the few small things that still made him feel safe in an unsafe world. The boy watched her with knowing eyes, understanding without a single word that something terrible was coming. When Dante's car pulled up to the warehouse, Maya felt the weight of finality settle over her like something heavy and cold. This was where her story ended, not with freedom, not with the life she had glimpsed for one brief, shining moment, but with a transaction, a chess move. She had always been the losing bet. The warehouse was exactly what it looked like. Rusted walls, broken windows, the smell of river water and slow decay. Dante's uncle was waiting in the center of the open floor, flanked by a dozen armed men. He was older than Dante, his face carved by years of deliberate cruelty. When he smiled, it was all teeth. Nephew, he said pleasantly, always so punctual. Dante's grip on Maya's arm was iron. He pulled her forward. She tried to pull back. He did not let her. Danny walked beside them, small and silent, his sketchbook pressed to his chest like a shield. The package, Dante said, his voice cold enough to freeze blood. As promised, now release my people. The uncle gestured. 3 vehicles pulled up. Doors opened. The hostages stumbled out, beaten and frightened but breathing, and were immediately surrounded by Dante's people, who had been waiting at the edges. Such trust, the uncle mocked, willing to trade your precious key for these nobodies. Dante shoved Maya forward. She stumbled, caught herself, turned back to look at him. His face was stone, empty, not a flicker of anything. Dante, she whispered, a prayer disguised as a name. He did not respond. He nodded to his uncle's men. They grabbed Maya and Danny and dragged them toward a waiting van. Maya screamed his name, fought with everything she had. But Dante was already walking away, his back rigid, his hands clenched at his sides. He did not look back. Not once. The van door slammed shut. Darkness swallowed them. Maya pulled Danny close and felt his tears soaking into her jacket. And she wondered if this was how her father had felt at the end, knowing he had sacrificed everything only to lose it all anyway. The drive lasted 40 minutes. When the van stopped, Maya was pulled out into a compound that looked like a fortress. High stone walls, armed guards at every angle, cameras tracking everything. They were brought to a great hall, all dark wood and stolen art. The uncle settled into a chair that was practically a throne. He looked deeply, disgusting, pleased with himself. He gestured Maya forward. The locket, he said, give it to me. Maya's hand went to her throat, the chain still there. The pendant warm against her skin. The last piece of her father. The last piece of herself. If I refuse. The uncle raised a gun and pressed it against Danny's temple. Then I make a mess on the floor and take it from your body. Maya's hands were shaking as she unclasped the chain. She held it out. The uncle snatched it with greedy hands. His eyes lit up with triumph. Finally, he breathed. Everything that should have been mine from the very beginning. He pressed his thumb to the center of the locket. Nothing happened. He tried again, his face twisted with rage. What is this? Why won't it open? Maya felt a smile pulling at the corner of her mouth. A terrible, dangerous, slow smile, because it is a fake. The real locket would have already melted his fingers. The uncle back handed her hard across the face. Maya's head snapped sideways, blood filled her mouth. But she was laughing now, tasting copper and something that felt very much like victory. You are holding cheap tin and a GPS tracker, and you just led the most dangerous man in this city directly to your front door. The uncle raised the gun and pressed it to her forehead. Then you have just made yourself completely useless to me, have I? Maya held his gaze. Or am I the only person on earth who can give you what you actually want? Kill me and that drive is locked forever. Keep me alive and maybe I cooperate. A bluff. A desperate, ridiculous, last chance bluff. But it bought her time. The uncle lowered the gun slightly. The calculation moving behind his eyes. We have ways of making people cooperate. I am sure you do, Maya said. She wiped blood from her mouth with the back of her hand. But torture takes time, and I am guessing you have enemies who are very interested right now in whatever happened to Dante's delivery. She watched the realization move across his face. Before he could respond, Maya heard it, a sound barely there. A rapid, rhythmic beeping coming from the locket in his hand, getting faster, and Maya remembered. Dante's lips against her ear as he had shoved her toward the van. Words that had looked like a curse, but had the exact shape of a promise. The service hasn't started yet. The north wall exploded. Concrete and steel erupted inward. Smoke and fire filled the air. Maya grabbed Danny and dropped, covering his body entirely with hers as the world turned to chaos. Through the smoke and the screaming, she saw them. Dante's forces flooding the compound from every direction at once. And at the center of it all, walking through the fire like it could not touch him, was Dante himself. He moved through the uncle's guards like they were obstacles, not people, every shot finding its target with quiet, terrible efficiency. Every motion deadly and precise. He was not just fighting. He was ending this. The uncle scrambled backward, raising his own gun. But Dante was faster. He shot the weapon clean out of the old man's hand and closed the distance in 3 strides. You should have known, Dante said, his voice carrying over everything. The dragon does not trade his treasure. He just finds new ways to burn his enemies. He turned. His eyes found Maya through the smoke and wreckage. Relief, fury, possession. All of it at once on a face that was usually perfectly unreadable. Are you hurt? He demanded, crossing to her. Maya scrambled to her feet, still shielding Danny with her body. You used us. You made us the bait. Yes. No apology, none. I needed to find this place. I needed to get inside. And you were the only thing my uncle wanted badly enough to reveal his location. His hands came up and cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away the blood at her mouth with devastating gentleness. I told you, Maya, I do not trade what is mine. I just make my enemies believe that I do. You could have told me. No. His grip tightened. You needed to believe it, needed to feel genuinely betrayed, otherwise he would have seen the trap. His forehead pressed against hers. I am sorry for the fear, for every second of it, but I am not sorry for keeping you alive. Maya wanted to hit him, wanted to kiss him, wanted to do both at the exact same time. The locket, she said instead. Your uncle has it. He has a replica. Dante's smile was sharp. I had a copy made 3 days ago. Same weight, same tarnish, completely worthless. The real one never left you. He touched her collarbone just above her heart. My best forger made the duplicate while you slept. The real locket is in the safe at the safe house, exactly where we left it. Maya stared at him. You planned all of this from the very beginning. From the moment I left that note in the diner, every move, every moment of terror, all of it was necessary to bring us here, to end this decisively. He was right. She could see the whole map of it now, the elegant, brutal strategy laid out across weeks, and she hated that she could see it, hated that she understood it. Next time, she said quietly, trust me enough to let me help plan the trap. Dante's expression shifted, something softening behind his eyes. There will not be a next time. This ends today. The compound was secured within the hour. Dante's forces moved through it with practiced, grim efficiency. The uncle's remaining people were rounded up. The perimeter locked down, but the victory was not complete. Dante's lieutenants came to him with hard faces. The uncle had slipped out through a hidden tunnel during the initial breach, vanished before the smoke cleared. Maya watched from the side, Danny pressed against her, the boy traumatized but physically unhurt. Dante approached them both, soot and blood on his face, eyes cold with calculation. We secured the compound, but my uncle is in the wind. He escaped. Fear spiked through Maya's chest. For now, but he lost his fortress, he lost his army. He is running scared, Maya, and hunted men make mistakes. His voice dropped lower. He tried to hurt my brother. There is nowhere on this earth he can hide from me. Maya wanted to feel triumphant. But she just felt exhausted and desperately, achingly ready for this nightmare to be over. Then one of Dante's men approached, his expression cautious and strange. We found a cell in the basement. The man said he hesitated. There is someone down there, he says. Another pause, he says he is her father. The world stopped. Maya could not breathe. Her father was dead, had been dead for 4 years. She had grieved him, moved on. Built an entire life out of the wreckage of his choices. That is impossible, she whispered. But Dante's expression told her it was not. They went down together. Every step felt like walking into her own grave. Narrow corridors, damp walls smelling of mildew and old despair. Prison cells lining both sides, most empty. At the end of the corridor, in the last cell, lit by a single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. A man sat on a concrete bench with his head in his hands. He was older, thinner, gray in his hair, lines cut deep into his face by suffering. But it was him, unmistakably, impossibly, her father, Dad. Her voice broke completely on the word. His head snapped up when he saw her. Something moved through his eyes, hope maybe, or something that looked like it from a distance. Maya, he breathed. Oh, sweetheart, you found me. Dante unlocked the cell. Maya stumbled forward on legs that did not feel like her own. 4 years of grief and guilt and struggling alone. 4 years of thinking he was gone. She threw her arms around him, sobbing. Her father's arms came around her, but the embrace felt wrong immediately. Too tight, too focused, too much like a search. His hand moved to her throat, fingers clawing for the chain of the locket. They found only skin. He froze. Then he shoved her backward with both hands, staring at her bare neck with something that was not grief or relief or love of any kind. Where is it? Reality crashed through Maya's hope like a wave breaking on rocks. The locket. Where is my locket? He screamed, his eyes wild and every pretense of warmth gone like it had never existed. Where is my money? I do not have it. You lost it. He grabbed her shoulders and shook her violently. The accounts, the billions, that is why I put it on you. That is why I made you carry it. You were always just. He stopped himself. But the damage was done. Just what? Maya's voice was barely there, just the safest place to hide it. Her father's expression hardened into something she had never seen on his face before. Something she did not recognize at all. You were a child. No one suspects a child. And if they found you, if they hurt you, he shrugged with something approaching complete indifference. The fail. Safe would have destroyed the data. Either way, I was protected. Maya felt something inside her shatter. All those years believing he had loved her. Believing he had sacrificed himself to keep her safe. Believing the locket was a gift. You used me, she said. Your own daughter. You were never my daughter. The words came out vicious and raw, and completely without hesitation. You were a responsibility I never chose, a convenient place to hide what I needed hidden, but useful, trusting, easy. He lunged for her throat again. Maya stumbled back, and she saw the blade he had hidden in his sleeve. A makeshift knife, sharp and serious. I did not survive 4 years in this cell to let some stupid girl rue. In everything. He snarled. Give me the locket, or I will take it. You understand me. You will give it to me, or I will cut it off you. He raised the blade. The gunshot was deafening in that small space. Her father screamed and dropped the knife as blood bloomed across his thigh. He collapsed, clutching the wound. Maya looked up. Dante was standing behind her, gun raised, expression colder than anything she had ever seen. Touch her again, he said quietly, and the next one goes through your skull. He stepped forward, putting his entire body between Maya and the man who had just destroyed every memory she had ever loved. Her father was sobbing now, pain and rage twisting together into something pathetic and small. "She is nothing," he gasped. "Just a tool. You do not understand what I went through for that money. I earned it. It is mine." "Family is not blood," Dante said. He did not raise his voice, did not need to. "Family is who bleeds for you, who protects you, who sees your worth beyond what you can provide." He finally looked at Maya, and the tenderness in his eyes made her chest ache in a way she was not ready for. "Your father showed me exactly what family should never be." Maya's legs gave out. Dante caught her, lowered them both to the ground, and held her while she fell apart completely. All the years of believing she was loved. All the years of believing her father had been a good man who had died for something real. All of it lies. She had been a storage unit, a human safe deposit box, nothing more. "I am sorry," Dante murmured against her hair. "I am sorry you had to see this. I am sorry I did not spare you from it." "He is not worth your bullets," Maya said. Her voice came out hollow. She looked at her father, this stranger wearing her most beloved memory, and felt nothing at all. Let him rot in this cell. Let him die knowing the money he destroyed himself for will never touch his hands. Dante helped her stand. They walked out together, her father's screaming threats and begging fading behind them. Maya did not look back. There was nothing there worth remembering. In the corridor, she turned to Dante. "You knew. That is why you brought me down here. You wanted me to see. You needed to see." His hand cupped her face. His thumb brushed away tears she had not even noticed falling. "You needed to understand that the man who gave you life did not give you value. You created that yourself through every sacrifice, every moment of love you gave Danny, every time you survived when you had every reason to stop trying. I do not know who I am anymore," Maya admitted. "Everything I believed. Then we will figure out who you are together." His forehead pressed against hers. "No lies, no manipulation between us, just truth, no matter how brutal it gets." Maya's hands fisted in his shirt. Promise me you will never use me the way he did." A pause. "I cannot promise that." The honesty hit her like cold water. "I am what I am, Maya. I will use every resource I have to protect what is mine. And you are the most precious resource I have. So yes, I will use you, your strength, your mind, your ability to survive anything, but I will never make you feel worthless, never make you doubt what you are worth." His lips brushed her temple. "Because you are not a tool to me. You are the reason I am still fighting to keep any of this standing, not a love declaration." Something more complicated, something more honest. Maya found herself accepting it, found herself nodding against his chest. They returned to the main hall. Danny was waiting, his eyes full of questions he could not ask. Maya knelt in front of him and took his small hands in both of hers. "The man downstairs," she said carefully. "He is not who I thought he was. He is not family, not anymore." She looked up at Dante, then back at the boy. "But you are, you and Dante, you are my family, the only family I choose." Danny threw his arms around her neck. Maya held him. This child who was not her brother by blood, but was more than blood, had ever been, and she let the last pieces of her old life crumble away into dust. When they emerged from the compound, the sun was setting, the whole sky painted in fire and deep red over the city's skyline. Dante found her hand, threaded his fingers through hers. "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Now we rebuild." He looked at the city spread before them like something he had always known was his. "The war is over. The accounts are secure. My uncle will face what is coming for him." He turned to look at her. "And you decide what role you want in all of it. Partner, queen, or just the woman I protect." Maya thought about everything she had survived. Everything she had learned about who she actually was underneath all the years of hiding. The girl who had served coffee and kept her head down and tried to be invisible was gone. In her place stood someone harder, someone who had looked monsters in the eye and had not blinked. "I want to stand beside you," she said. Not behind, not beneath, beside. Dante's smile was slow and dangerous and deeply, genuinely proud. "Then prepare yourself, Maya. because standing beside a dragon means you burn with the same fire. Good, Maya said. I am so tired of being cold. 2 weeks. That was how long the peace lasted, before everything went to hell again. Maya had started to believe, foolishly, naively, that they had actually won. Dante's uncle was imprisoned and facing the council's judgment. The compound had been seized. The accounts her father had stolen were being slowly, carefully unlocked, the money redistributed to rebuild what years of war had destroyed. Maya had even started sleeping without nightmares. Then came the night of the extraction. Dante had business across the city. A meeting with the heads of the other families to formalize the new power structure. He had wanted Maya to come, to be introduced properly as his partner. But she had convinced him to let her stay at the safe house with Danny. The boy had been having panic attacks, the trauma finally catching up with him now that the immediate danger had passed. He needed stability, routine, not another room full of dangerous men making dangerous deals. Dante had agreed, reluctantly. He left a full security detail behind. It was not enough. The attack came at midnight. Explosives blew the ground floor entrance. Armed men poured in, professional, coordinated, wearing the insignia of the uncle's most loyal faction, the ones who had gone underground after the compound fell. Maya grabbed Danny and ran for the safe in the bedroom wall. She did not have time to get a weapon, but she snatched the real locket from its velvet case and shoved it down the front of her shirt just as the door splintered open. They cut her off before she could reach the panic room. She fought, used everything Dante had been teaching her, but there were too many of them and they moved too efficiently. They subdued her, tied her wrists, and threw her and Danny into the back of a van. The boss sends his regards, one of them said. The uncle had escaped. He was still out there. They were driven to an abandoned industrial complex on the edge of the city. Maya was dragged out and forced to her knees on cracked concrete. Danny was pulled from the van, crying silently, struggling against the hands holding him. Then came the sound of more vehicles. 20 minutes later, a convoy arrived. Dante stepped out of the lead car, flanked by his lieutenants. But his weapons were holstered, his hands were visible. He had come prepared to negotiate, unarmed. The uncle stepped out of the shadows of a nearby building. He looked terrible, thinner, his face gaunt and burning with hatred. But his eyes were lit with a vindictive triumph that made Maya's stomach turn. "Nephew," he called. "So good of you to join us. Release them." Dante's voice was controlled, underneath it volcanic. "This is between us. They have nothing to do with your vendetta. They have everything to do with it. This woman, this boy. They are the reason you betrayed your blood, the reason you chose outsiders over family. They are my family." Dante took one step forward. "And if you harm them, there is no place on this earth where you will be safe from me." The uncle laughed. A brittle, unhinged sound, brave words from a man with no leverage. He pulled a sniper rifle from one of his guards. Moved to a balcony overlooking the courtyard. "I grow tired of talking. Let me show you what happens to those who forget their place." He raised the rifle. Maya watched his aim shift, not toward Dante, toward her. Time slowed. She saw Dante's expression change. Saw the terrible lightning, fast calculation in his eyes. Saw him make the decision. He ran, not for cover, not for his own people. He ran toward her, crossing the impossible distance between them at a dead sprint. The rifle fired. Dante's body slammed into hers with the full force of his momentum, wrapping around her, carrying them both to the ground, shielding every inch of her with himself. Then she felt it, the wetness spreading across his chest. "No," she breathed. "No, no, no." "I am all right," Dante said, his voice rough against her ear. "I am," he coughed, and Maya felt something warm spray against her neck. Blood, too much blood, Dante. She tried to push him off, tried to see the wound. He would not let her move, would not stop covering her even as his life was draining out. Chaos erupted. Dante's men returned fire. The courtyard became a war zone. The uncle's sniper position was overwhelmed in seconds. But Maya could only see the man in her arms. "You stupid, arrogant." Her voice broke. "You cannot die. I will not let you die." Did not ask permission. Dante managed. And even now, bleeding out on cracked concrete. He was almost smiling. Told you. I protect what is mine. His eyes closed. No. Maya screamed his name, pressing her bound hands against the wound, trying to stop what would not stop. Someone was pulling her back. Dante's scarred Lieutenant Jinho was lifting Dante's body, carrying him toward a vehicle. We have a medical team on stand by. He will make it. He has to make it. Maya was pushed into the same car. Danny pressed against her side. She watched Jinho and another man work on Dante in the back of a moving vehicle. Applying pressure, starting a line, their movements practiced and desperate. Dante's face was the color of ash. His breathing shallow and labored. Stay with me, Maya begged, taking his hand in her bound ones. Stay with me. You do not get to die after everything we survived. You do not get to leave, not now, not after you made me care, not after you made me believe I was worth something. His fingers twitched in hers, barely, but deliberate. The underground clinic was all fluorescent light and antiseptic. Doctors swarmed Dante the moment they arrived, cutting away his shirt, shouting to each other in a language of urgency that Maya could only partially follow. She was pulled aside, her zip ties cut. Danny taken to another room to be checked for injuries, and then there was nothing left to do but wait. Hours passed. Maya sat in a plastic chair staring at her hands, still dark with Dante's blood, and tried to process what she had witnessed. He had run toward a loaded gun aimed at her face. He had put his body in between her and that bullet without 1 second of hesitation. No one had ever done that for her. In her entire life, not one person had ever valued her life above their own. The surgical suite doors finally opened. A doctor stepped out, exhausted but steady. He is alive. The bullet missed his heart by centimeters, collapsed a lung, broke 2 ribs, but he is alive. He is in a medically induced coma while the worst of the damage heals. The next 48 hours are critical. Can I see him? He is not conscious. Can I see him? The doctor sighed and stepped aside. Dante looked smaller in the hospital bed, hooked up to machines, chest bandaged, face pale under the oxygen mask. Maya pulled a chair close and took his hand, careful of the Roman 4 lines. You are an idiot, she told him quietly, her voice breaking apart. A reckless, self-sacrificing, absolutely maddening idiot. And if you die, I will find a way to bring you back from the dead just so I can kill you myself. His fingers twitched. Not much, but enough to feel deliberate. I mean every word of it, she continued, tears running unchecked down her face. You do not get to leave me, not now, not after you made me care, not after you made me believe I was worth protecting. You stay. Do you hear me? You stay. The door opened. Jinho entered, his expression grim. We have a problem. Maya wiped her eyes. What kind? The uncle escaped in the chaos. Jinho's jaw was tight. And the lieutenants are questioning whether to continue supporting Dante. With him in a coma, with his leadership in question, they are talking about dividing the territory before everything collapses. Maya stood. She squared her shoulders. Where are they? Conference room. But Maya, you cannot. She was already walking. She did not knock. She slammed both doors open. The bang of them hitting the walls made every single man at the table turn and look at her at once. 12 of Dante's top lieutenants, hard men, dangerous men, men who had killed and bled and spent years building an empire from violence and loyalty. Sitting around a table, discussing abandoning the dragon because he was wounded, Maya walked to the head of the table, to the empty chair that was Dante's. She did not ask permission. She sat down. She folded her hands on the table. She looked at each man in turn, slowly, until the ones who tried to hold her gaze looked away first. I understand there has been some confusion, she said, her voice quiet. Some question about leadership, about loyalty, about whether it is time to protect yourselves. Miss Collins. One of them cleared his throat. This is not personal, it is simply business. With Dante incapacitated, we need to consider the locket, Maya said. She reached up, pulled the chain from inside her shirt, let the pendant fall against her chest in full view of everyone at the table. This is what you want. Is it not? The access codes, the billions, the key to everything Dante has been rebuilding. The room went completely quiet. Let me be very clear. Maya leaned forward slightly. This locket opens for exactly one person, me, and if I die, it triggers a fail. Safe that destroys every single byte of data on it, permanently, irrevocably. It cannot be recovered. She looked around the table again. So here is what is going to happen. You are going to sit in your chairs, you are going to shut your mouths, and you are going to wait for your boss to wake up. You are going to continue operations, exactly as he instructed, and you are going to remember that the only thing standing between you and bankruptcy is the woman currently sitting in his chair. You think you can threaten us? A younger lieutenant stood up. His hand moved toward his weapon. You are nothing. You are a waitress he picked up off the street. Maya pulled the gun from inside her jacket. One of Dante's lifted from his bedside table. She pointed it at the man's chest. Her hand did not shake. Sit down. The lieutenant's eyes went wide. He sat. I am not nothing, Maya said. Her voice was still quiet, still wrapped in complete calm. I am the woman your boss took a bullet for. I am the woman who survived multiple assassination attempts and did not break. I am the woman who raised his brother, unlocked his stolen fortune, and stood beside him while he burned his enemies to the ground. She set the gun on the table with a soft, deliberate click. And I am the woman who will put a bullet in anyone who tries to dismantle this empire while he recovers. She looked around the table one final time. Are we clear? One by one, slowly, the men nodded. Good. Maya stood. His second in command will coordinate daily operations. Any major decisions come to me first. If anyone has a problem with that arrangement, she picked up the gun. My door is always open. She walked out. She made it back to Dante's hospital room, got inside, got the door closed behind her. Then her legs gave out completely. She sat against the wall and let herself shake. She had just walked into a room full of professional killers and made them answer to her. And somehow, impossibly, they had believed her. A soft sound made her look up. Dante's eyes were open. Barely, glazed with pain and medication, but open, aware, watching her from across the room with an expression she could not quite read. You heard that, she whispered. He lifted one hand, the smallest possible gesture. Come here. Maya crossed to the bed. Dante's fingers reached for her face, his touch barely there, feather soft against her cheek. My queen, he rasped. The words barely audible. My fierce, ruthless queen. His eyes closed again, the medicated darkness pulling him back under. But she saw the smile on his lips before it went, the small, exhausted, deeply proud curve of his mouth. She had terrified a room full of criminals, had claimed authority she had no right to on paper, had transformed from prey to predator in a single conversation. And the dragon approved. Dante recovered slowly, the wound healed, the collapsed lung reinflated, but word moved through the underworld fast. The dragon had bled, had been brought low. The other families began testing the edges, probing for weakness. It could not continue. Dante needed to demonstrate that he was still standing, needed to remind everyone why crossing him was fatal. He proposed a wedding, not to Maya, not yet, though the unspoken promise of it hung between them like something he was still finding the right words for. A political wedding to a woman named Sora, the daughter of the most powerful rival family. A union that would cement peace between them, bring together the two largest territories, and close the door on future conflicts. Strategic, practical, exactly the kind of move a smart leader made. Maya hated it completely. You cannot be serious, she said when he told her. They were in his new penthouse, colder than the old one, more fortress than home, the kind of place that did not pretend to be anything other than what it was. It is necessary. Dante stood at the windows, still moving carefully, his chest wrapped beneath an expensive shirt. 3 weeks out from surgery. Sora's father controls port access. He wants my uncle dead as much as I do. He agreed to the arrangement because it is theater, not a marriage. Sora knows this. She gets the public alliance. Wanted, I get my trap, and tomorrow we quietly end it, citing political differences. Everyone gets what they needed, except my uncle. Dante turned to face her. This wedding is the only way to force him out. He will see it as the final insult, me marrying into the family that should have been his alliance. He will make a move, and when he does, we will be ready for him. Maya understood the strategy. She understood every piece of it perfectly, and she wished she did not. "And what am I in this picture?" she asked. "The other woman you keep hidden. You are the trap." He crossed to her. His hands framed her face. "The wedding is a performance, to bring out enemies who have been hiding. But you," his thumb traced her lower lip, "you are the weapon they will not see coming." Over the next hour, Dante laid out every detail. The wedding would be held at one of the most prestigious venues in the city, a cathedral that had served as neutral ground for decades. Every major family would attend, along with their security and their people. It would be the largest gathering of this world in the city's history, and Maya would be there not as a guest, not as his partner, as a server. "You want me to wait tables at your wedding," Maya said flatly. "I want you in a position where no one will notice you." He pulled out building schematics, photographs, detailed operational plans. "My uncle will be there. He will not be able to resist watching me marry someone else, watching his nephew claim the victory that should have been his. He will hide among the guests, disguised and protected, but he will be there. And when you identify him, you will already be armed, already close, and you will do what needs to be done." Dante's eyes were dark and serious. "This is not just about strength. This is about proving that you and I are stronger together, that you are not my partner in name only. You are my equal." Maya thought about the symmetry of it, ending where they had begun, in a room full of people who did not see her, carrying something meant to change everything. "I want Danny safe before any of this happens," she said, "far from the city, somewhere your uncle cannot reach him. Already arranged. He goes to my family in the morning. They will protect him." Maya nodded slowly, and after, when this is over, Dante pulled her close, careful of his healing ribs. "After, we build something different, still dangerous, still powerful, but ours." His lips brushed her temple. "No more secrets between us. No more using each other without the other one knowing. Just us and the empire we forged together. You are asking me to become what you are," Maya said. "A killer, a criminal. I am asking you to own what you already are." His hand tilted her chin up. "You stood in front of my people with a gun and made them kneel. You have survived everything this world has thrown at you. You are already a monster, Maya. I'm just asking you to stop pretending." "You are not," she kissed him, hard and desperate and without any hesitation at all, pouring every complicated, impossible emotion into it. Dante kissed her back with controlled passion that was barely controlled at all. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Maya whispered against his mouth, "Let's paint the altar red." Dante's smile was slow and sharp and utterly dangerous. "That is my queen." The wedding was beautiful in the way that all disasters were beautiful. White flowers everywhere, candlelight, the kind of elegance that existed specifically to mask the violence underneath. Maya dressed in the black and white uniform of the catering staff, hair pulled back, makeup subtle. She looked like every other server in the building, invisible, forgettable, perfect. She worked the floor with the ease of 4 years of practice, carrying champagne and small bites of food, her eyes never stopping moving. Always scanning, always cataloging. Dante stood at the altar in a black tuxedo that cost more than most people's cars, looking every inch the powerful man he was. Sora beside him was lovely, playing her role perfectly, both of them performing for the room with practiced ease. Maya moved through the crowd, listened to conversations, watched every face, and there, sitting 3 rows back, partially hidden by a larger man, was the uncle. He had disguised himself well, different hair, a device on his face changing its shape, clothes that made him look 2 decades older. But Maya recognized the way he held himself, the hatred burning in his eyes as he watched his nephew claim what he had always believed should have been his. She approached his row from behind, keeping her face angled away, her voice bright and professional. "Champagne, sir." The uncle did not even look at her. waved a dismissive hand without making eye contact. Help was invisible to men like him. Maya smiled at the back of his head and moved on. Her hand brushed the serving tray and found what was waiting underneath it. Not obvious, not loud, just a pistol with a suppressor, sleek and cold and ready. The ceremony concluded. Dante and Sora sealed their performance with a convincing kiss. The guests began to move toward the reception hall in the shift from ceremony to celebration. This was the moment, the window of chaos when attention would be divided, and no one was quite watching anything. Maya caught Dante's eye across the room, the smallest possible nod. She dropped the serving tray. The crash was loud enough to make everyone nearby turn and look. Maya apologized profusely, crouching to clean up the mess, and as she did, her hand found the weapon, and it disappeared beneath the folded service cloth draped over her arm. The uncle was moving, trying to use the commotion to slip out before anyone got a closer look at him. Maya walked directly into his path. "Excuse me, sir," she said pleasantly. "I believe you dropped this." She pressed the cloth, covered muzzle against his ribs. The uncle looked down, then up. His eyes went wide with recognition. "Hello," Maya said quietly. "Remember me." She pulled the trigger 3 times. The suppressor made the shots sound like nothing, like champagne corks, like celebration. The uncle stumbled backward, blood spreading across his chest. He went down. Maya dropped the cloth and stepped back and screamed. "He has a gun." Chaos erupted. Security swarmed from every direction. Guests scattered. And in the confusion, Dante was there, pulling Maya aside, positioning himself between her and every camera in the room. "Clean," he murmured, checking her over quickly. Gloves, no prints, weapon was cold and untraceable. Maya's hands were completely steady. Her voice was calm. She had just killed a man in front of hundreds of witnesses, in a cathedral, at a wedding. And she felt nothing but a deep, quiet satisfaction. "Perfect," Dante said. His hand found hers for just a moment. Squeezed once, the venue became controlled chaos. The uncle was pronounced dead on scene. Security footage was confiscated immediately. Witnesses gave contradictory accounts, some saying they saw him reach for a weapon. Others focused on the screaming server. By the time police arrived, the story was already set. A known criminal had infiltrated the event, attempted to assassinate the groom, was shot by security in the chaos. Tragic, unavoidable, case closed. Maya slipped out with the catering staff, changed in a service bathroom, emerged in the simple black dress she had worn underneath the uniform, walked out the front of the building like any other departing guest, got into a waiting car. Dante met her an hour later at a secondary location, already changed out of his tuxedo, looking at her with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Like something long Held had finally released. "It is done," he said. "My uncle is gone, the families are unified, the territory is secure, and my temporary bride will have the arrangement ended quietly within the week." He moved toward her. She knew the truth. She got her public alliance. Her father got his connection to me, and I got everything I came for. He stopped close, his eyes moving over her face. "And you got your revenge." Maya thought about the uncle on the cathedral floor, about her father in his cell, about every person who had ever tried to reduce her to something small and useful and disposable. "No," she said quietly, "I got my power." Dante's expression shifted, pride and hunger and something darker and deeper moving through his eyes all at once. "Say it," he said. "Say what you are." Maya met his gaze fully. "I am the queen of this city, partner to the man who runs it, mother to its heir, the woman every enemy will fear and every ally I will respect." She stepped forward, her hand sliding up his chest. "I am yours and you are mine, and together we are going to burn anyone who ever forgets it." Dante's control came apart. He kissed her with bruising intensity, hands fisting in her hair, body pressing hers back against the wall. This was not gentle, not tender. This was two people recognizing each other as true equals and refusing to pretend otherwise for another second. When they broke apart, Maya's lips were swollen and her dress was askew, and Dante looked equally wrecked. The careful facade cracked wide open to show what lived underneath. "Come home with me," he said, his voice rough. "What have I earned?" Maya asked. "Everything." His hands cradled her face. "My empire, my loyalty, my protection, my—" He stopped, the word catching in his throat. "Your what?" The admission seemed torn from somewhere he had kept locked for a very long time. "My heart, what is left of it. Whatever parts are not already too scorched to feel anything, those parts are yours." Maya felt tears burning at the corners of her eyes. "I love you," she said. "I love you and I hate that I love you, and I would not change a single moment of how we got here. Neither would I." He kissed her again, slower this time. Like something finally given permission to be what it actually was. "Come home, let me show you what queens deserve." They drove through Chicago in the back of an armored car. City lights streaming past the windows. Maya's head on Dante's shoulder. His arm around her waist, both of them quiet. Both of them content in a way that neither of them was very practiced at. The dragon and his queen. The monster and the woman who had become something sharp and true enough to stand beside him. Tomorrow there would be politics. Consolidating power. Teaching Danny what it meant to one day inherit all of this. But tonight was theirs. The car descended into an underground garage. They took an elevator to a penthouse neither of them had ever been to before. A clean slate, a new beginning. When the doors opened, Maya saw that Dante had prepared. Candles lit the space. The windows showed the whole city spread beneath them, like a kingdom that had finally found its rulers. "One more thing," Dante said. He reached into his jacket and produced a small black box. Maya's breath stopped. "The debt is paid," he said, echoing words from their very first meeting. "Your father's betrayal, your years of suffering, everything you survived and endured, everything you did not have to do, but did anyway because you are who you are." He opened the box. A ring, dark stone surrounded by smaller ones that caught the candlelight like captured stars. "Now I am the one who owes you, for saving my son, for saving my empire, for saving me." He went down on one knee, and Maya's hands flew to her mouth. "Marry me," he said simply. "Not for politics, not for strategy, not for any reason except that you are the only person I have ever trusted completely. The only person I have ever," he swallowed. "The only person I have ever loved." Maya dropped to her knees in front of him and took his face in both of her hands. "Yes," she said. "Yes to all of it, the empire, the danger, the life that will never be ordinary for a single day. Yes to you." He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. He had always been meticulous. Dante swept her into his arms and carried her toward the bedroom, and Maya laughed, full and real and completely unguarded. The first time she had laughed that way in longer than she could remember. "I am going to ruin you," she warned him. "You already have," Dante said, "and I have never been happier about anything in my entire life." He laid her down on the bed with reverent care, his hands tracing her like something he had been waiting to touch properly for a very long time. Maya reached for him and stopped pretending she was anything other than exactly where she was meant to be. Outside, the city pulsed with life and darkness and all the complex machinery of power and survival. Somewhere her father sat in a cell and rotted. Somewhere, Danny was safe and surrounded by people who would protect him with their lives. Somewhere, the empire they had bled together to build was settling into something new and enduring. But here, in this room, there was only Maya and Dante, the waitress and the dragon, the monster and the queen. And as he loved her with devastating and complete thoroughness, as he whispered promises and threats and declarations against her skin that she believed with her whole heart, Maya understood with perfect, unshakable certainty that she had finally found the thing she had been searching for across her entire life. Not safety, not ordinary, but a place where she belonged completely. A man who would burn the world to ashes before he let anything take her. Who looked at her darkness and called it beautiful. Who made her feel powerful and precious and loved in a way that was fierce and violent and entirely, completely real. The dragon had claimed his treasure, and the treasure had claimed him right back. In the end, they were exactly what the other one needed. Fire and fury, passion and power, love wrapped in darkness and sealed with everything it had cost them both. It was not a fairy tale, it was something truer, something that would last.